Welcome back, everybody, to Catching You. I am your co-host, Rusty Ham, and Lacey is off again. Man, this is 2 weeks in a row, Dave, that Lacey's been off. She's in the middle of finals, so we don't want to bug her, and she's also sick. I think she's sick. She thought she had pink eye. I have with me Dave Humphries. Dave and I have a rich history, right?
We do. We do.
Not only in softball, but previous to softball, we were basketball coaches. He was at Santiago High School in the city of Corona. I was a high school basketball coach at Marietta Mesa in Marietta. Dave, welcome. How are you?
I am wonderful, and I appreciate you having me on. And I hope your daughter does not get sick because it's going around everywhere. So hopefully she can finish finals well and not get that bug that everybody's got.
That's right. This is our second time doing this because the first time there was some technical difficulties. So hopefully we can get through this. So, Dave, before we get into, and again, the reason I have you on is obviously we had a good history as coaching against each other. Our daughters are primarily the same age, and we kind of went through the same path as coaches, right? As father of daughters that play softball, but before that, kind of, I know you and your wife, she played, right? And she
Yeah.
started coaching. That's how she got in it. So, kind of give us a brief history of before we met each other.
20 some years ago when I married my wife, she played softball at University of Arizona, played for the GOAT, Coach Kendrea, and three-time national champion, two-time All-American. When we started dating, she's like, hey, I know you're a basketball coach, so if you want to date me, then you're going to have to coach softball with me. I'm like, you're crazy. I'm not coaching softball. I don't know anything about it. She's like, well, you played baseball, so you'll be fine. You're a coach at heart, so guess what? You'll figure it out on the fly. And 20 some years later, guess what? I'm still involved in softball, and we're still coaching together at the 14U travel team level. And, again, I got three beautiful daughters. KK, which just graduated last year from the University of Oregon, and then I've got CC, that is a sophomore at UCF. And then I've got my 13-year-old that is playing first year 14. So we got a lot on our plate. We love it. It's in my blood. And thank God I got done with basketball coaching. Let's just say that because I've been involved in my daughter's life, which is the most important thing for all families to know.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that role. Like I was telling everybody, you and I have a very similar path, right? We're both had basketball coaches. We both despised it after a while because of the politics and parents, and I loved it, right? And I know you did. The X's and O's was just I would just loved practice. I would just love getting in there. It's just all the other little stuff. And then so we would coach against each other. I did want to thank you. You allowed me to be in your summer program, which was cool. We had some good battles, and so I wanted to thank you for that. So let's talk about the sacrifices that we made, right? Because we both the reason I quit, and I've talked to you about this before, is I was at a Westmont tournament. My daughter was playing in a softball tournament. My son was in a flag football, and I was at Westmont College. The players had a skeleton crew because some of them were football players and they stayed home. We were sucking. I was all by myself in the dorms. I was miserable. Parents were complaining. And I knew then I was done because I was missing my kids' sports. I was at this stupid, stupid tournament and I was missing the most important people in my life, which is my kids. And so describe that a little bit because I know that we kind of had similar paths in that way. Right?
Yeah, I mean, bottom line is I love basketball. I went to college to play basketball. I was on a full ride scholarship for basketball. And as soon as I graduated from college, I went right into college basketball coaching. So it was in my blood and it was just drained in me. That's what I do because I'm passionate about it and all that kind of stuff. And it was great. I was an assistant coach at Cal State Bakersfield, which I loved. Didn't have any kids at the time. Everything was great. I'd leave at 5 o'clock in the morning and get home at 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. And that was every day. And thank God I had a supportive wife that allowed me to do that. But at the same time is it was just something that I loved to do. So when we first had our first kid, which is KK, when she was little and all that kind of stuff, I was still coaching at the college level. And I still was leaving at 5 and getting home at 11. And my wife was telling me all these fun things that my the little one was doing. And at the time, I was like, hey, that's just what a dad does. I'm living my dream, but at the same time, it hurt. It did. So that's when I went into high school coaching, because at least that way I can control my schedule and I can be off during the summer. I can be off during Christmas and all of that kind of stuff as far as throughout the day. So that was very important to me. So I started coaching at the high school level. Everything was great. Santiago, great, loved it, all that kind of stuff. And then one morning, when I, just like you just talked about Westmont, I'm waking up 5 o'clock in the morning to drive out to USC team camp because we're playing in that tournament. And all of a sudden, KK opens their door at 5:10 saying, Dad, where are you going? Needless to say that she had her gold all-star, whatever you want to call it. I mean, who knows what it is now, but it hurt me. It crushed me because I saw her face saying I had to leave and I wasn't there. And I told my assistants, which I never do, which you never did either, I'm going to miss the game because guess what? I'm going to my daughter's, whatever you call it, rec ball, all-star, gold, whatever. And it was one of those things that it was the most fulfillment weekend that I had when I was coaching basketball, because I was there with my daughter, supporting her, loving her. And at that time, I knew I was getting close to being done, but I still tried to balance in it, and it just didn't work out for me as far as that. And so, bottom line is, I'm blessed because guess what? I've got Sierra at UCF. I have my other one, KK, that just graduated from Oregon. My life was turned in a good way just because I got out of the game that I loved. And that was sacrifices like you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it was one of the hardest decisions, right? Because because I started in 1988 coaching basketball, and my whole goal was to be a head basketball coach, right? I wanted the gym floor to be named after me someday, right? I wanted to be a head basketball coach at a high school and retire, and have them name the gym after me. But what I didn't think was when I started being a head coach, Lacey was 6 and my son was 3. And at that time, they're probably not, they're not engulfed into youth sports yet. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Rah, rah, rah. I have this program. I'm running this program. I'm not missing a whole lot because he's 3 years old. What are you going to do when he's 3 years old? Go to swimming lessons? I'm not going to swimming lessons, right? But like you said, over time, now she's 10. Now she's getting into 10U, travel ball, and my son's getting into flag football. So that was difficult. And it's, the question was, it's the sacrifices. I don't think I was willing to sacrifice my family to run a basketball program. Some
Yeah,
people can. Don't get me wrong. Some people can do it. I think you and I have that same kind of mentality. It's like, yeah, I don't think it's worth that, right? That sacrifice.
yeah. The best part was when KK was 10, like what you're saying. She was on this travel team. And so I wasn't going to the game because I was gone on the weekends with basketball. And all of a sudden, I'm in the middle of a basketball game and my wife is blowing up my phone. I'm like, I'm right in the game. Is it an emergency? Because she doesn't do that. I go, what's going on? Did somebody get hurt? She goes, no. By the way, we're taking a travel team next year. Okay. I'm like, what are you talking about? So at 10U, second year 10s, we take KK on as a travel ball team, and it never stopped from there.
Yeah. So yeah, great transition. I was actually going to get into you coaching your daughter, right? You're with the Corona Angels, and I think you've always been Corona Angels, right? Or
We started our own, which was Corona Cats when we first started.
right.
And we qualified for PGF. And then Marty reached out to us in reference to coming on as a Corona Angels. And that was KK's first year 12s or second year 12s. I don't remember what it was. So once we did that with KK, we've been Corona Angels ever since.
All right. Yeah. So, how did the balance being? And I'm not sure because I was tough on Lacey. I think I described before because she was a bat buster and she had to perform. If you're an angel, if you're a bat buster, if you're an athletics mercado, you basically have to perform or you're just gonna get walked all over, right? So I'm not sure. I was tough on her. Being tough on your daughter as a coach while ensuring that she felt the support and the love of her dad. Kind of describe that if you can.
I'm not the perfect dad, and I will never say I'm the perfect dad because I was hard on KK. There was many days that KK and I would not talk. just because of how tough I was on her, both on the field, off the field, everything. And it was one of those things to me is I didn't want anybody to outwork her and anybody that was more competitive than her because I wanted her to be that dog. I wanted her to be that beast from a mentality standpoint as well as physical standpoint. So it was challenging. There's a lot of times my wife and I would argue because she's mama and I was dad, but at the same time is thank God we did it because look where KK went. And it's one of those things to me is tough love is a great thing. And you have to separate that when you get off the field. And I'm going to talk to all the dads right now as far as coaching their kids for the first time. Yeah, you can get the most out of them on the field. You can challenge them. You can make it tough on them. But when they walk away from the field, they need dad. They don't need coach anymore. And I didn't do it very well with KK. I didn't. I was a failure and I failed a lot with her. But same time is she's a strong woman and she's a tough woman. And that was important for me growing up. Sissy, different. I still was tough on her, still challenged her, still competed her, but she had a different attitude. I would yell at and scream at her and stuff like that. And she just looked at me like, whatever. That's Sissy. KK was more tougher. She took all of her emotions on top of her. And that's where Sissy is. Lexi is just like KK. My 14 or my 13-year-old is just like KK. She does not like to be yelled at. She doesn't like to be challenged as far as that kind of stuff. But for dad's standpoint, when the field is done, it's done. I don't talk to my girls. I don't talk to my girls, and then I'll talk to Lexi because she's my 13-year-old now. I don't talk to her on the way to the game about softball.
Mhm.
After the game's over with, when we're driving home, I don't talk to her about softball. I let her be her own person. Now, when we come home and we work the next day, then we'll start talking about what transpired in that specific game or that specific tournament so she can continue to get better. And that's a softball IQ. But it was not easy. It was not easy because you have all those parents out there that think daddy ball.
Well, yeah, I was just going to transition to that because we talked. There's a few people I follow on TikTok, and they talk about daddy ball, and you have the Facebook talk, and I think we both have commented on it a couple times. But and there's two different types of daddy ball. There's daddy ball where they get into it so their kid will be shortstop and bat second and play every inning, and they don't care what other parents say. But then there's also daddy ball, which the dad goes over the top to show the parents that they're not favoring their kid, that they actually maybe treat their daughter a little bit different than the average player. I don't know. Do you
Good question.
were
Good
you in that
question.
category, or were you kind of
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. Bottom line is I want to coach my daughter harder than anybody else on the field. This past weekend we played games and I pulled her out right in the middle of the inning. I don't do that with other girls. I just don't. Now I will do that in reference to you make the same mistake 3 or 4 times in a row, then okay, then we'll talk about it. But same time is I want parents to understand that it's not easy to be a coach, number one. But number two is now you put a dad that's involved in coaching, it's even tougher. And I want all my parents to understand that, listen, I'm going to coach my daughter up more than anything. I'm going to be tougher than them than anybody else. But guess what? I'm going to teach your daughter the best. I'm going to coach her up. I'm going to keep her accountable. And guess what? When she makes a mistake, I'm going to make sure that she understands why she made that mistake so she doesn't make the mistake the second.
yeah, and if you take out all the dads that coach, you don't have coaches.
Especially at that age level. You're
Yeah,
exactly right.
very few non-dad coaches that are like, hey, I'm going to volunteer to be a coach of 12-year-olds.
You know why I'm still coaching. That's the only reason why I'm coaching.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. So let's transition. Because you guys are a competitive program, right? In Southern California, we have, high end, the girls that go through the programs that we went through have a very high chance of getting recruited, right? You got the Crone Angels, SX Mercado, SoCal A's, Fat Busters. I think not sure where the Choppers are these days, but the Choppers were big, back when we were up. What steps did you? Because each program is different, right? I think, and we're looked at a certain way. The Batbusters were looked at a certain way. Crone Angels were looked at a certain way. What steps did you foster a competitive, positive culture on the travel team, especially in high pressure tournaments and rivalries, right? Because there's, I think the Angels and Batbusters was kind of like the Yankees and Dodgers, I think, in my eyes. It's very similar. It's just like you just kind of have that little side eye. You always have that side eye when you walk by the Korean Angels. I don't know if you want to discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, we had opportunities to go multiple places just like you did. We sat down with Marty and we sat down with other organizations and we just talked because I'm a coach, my wife's a coach, and we weren't parents at that time. We were coaches. And we knew at that time we wanted our daughters to be coached hard because if you're not coached hard at the travel ball level, you're not going to be ready when you go to college, period. I don't care what people say because when you get to college, it's a business, it's a job. You're an employee. You love the game, you want to be good and all that kind of stuff, but you're just a number when you go to college. And I hate to tell that parents, but that's honest, real talk right there. Because when you go on your recruiting trips, guess what? It's everything hunky dory. You're great, and they put on a great show for you. They throw the red carpet out for you, and they have all the glamorous digital, all awesome. Love it. They do an excellent job. Each program does. But when you get there and you have 25 other girls that are either better than you or the same position or you are equal with you as far as skill set, now guess what? Who's going to rise up and who is going to choke because they've never been in that environment? That's the thing that we wanted for our girls. And that's what Marty, and I talked to college coaches. I did about each organization and they gave me their pros and cons about it. And they're like, the one thing I loved about Marty is if you can play for Marty, you can play for any college coach in America.
Yeah, Lacey always talks about, she always heard remember about Hell Week, right? You guys have a Hell Week, right? And she always says, well, she's all in the high and mighty. She's like, well, Batbusters, we had Hell Week every weekend. And I'm like, Lace, I'm pretty sure the Crown Angels practiced hard. They just didn't practice hard one week.
Yeah. That Hell Week, he got smart this past 2 years and he put it like 2 weeks before we went into nationals. So Marty is changing because he's getting smarter. And that's the reason why college coaches love him. But again, there's so many great coaches from a high organization. And if I could say anything to parents right now, if your coach at the travel ball level is not coaching your daughter hard,
Right.
I would question that because when they get to college, it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah, it always brings me back to when Lacey was 10U. Midway through her second year 10s, we were a really good 10U team. We're talking 10U, but we were really good as 10Us. And our coach Chris Garcia was a hard ass. He was tough on the girls. And about halfway through, about half of them quit. They just couldn't handle it. You know Amber Tobin, right? She was on our team. She was third base, and it was just warm ups. And she overthrew first base, and he yanked her. He was so mad that he overthrew just in warm ups, and he yanked her. And then that weekend, she left and went somewhere else. And then like 5 or 6 other girls left, and we were down to a skeleton, right? And then all of a sudden, we got these girls, and they bought into what he was saying, and he was just. And these girls, we went to the national championship, but it's to your point. It's like you got to find girls. Number one, you got to find the right parents that get it, right? And then you got to find the girls that are just nails that are gonna take get it yelled at and not take it personal. They're gonna nod their head and they're gonna get after it and get dirty. Yeah, good stuff. So let's do that. Let's get into the recruiting part because you have your own. I don't. Is your own business? Is it?
Basically, let's go back if you don't mind
Yeah.
with the recruiting.
Yeah,
Okay.
go for it.
Yeah. When I started with KK, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I did not at all. And this is when she was in 6th grade and 7th grade because the rule they had to commit at an early age and KK got verbal at 8th grader going into her 9th grade year in the summer. And so at that time, dude, I was deer in the headlight look. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was trying to get as much information from people that didn't know what the heck they were talking about. And that's what parents do today. But after that, I promised myself, never going to happen again. So I started talking and reaching out to college coaches that I knew and started asking them a series of questions. And that helped me for Sierra. Okay? That is going to help me for Lexi. And NSR, which is National Scouting Report, I would have been with them for 5, 6 years, whatever it may be now. And they've educated me even that much more.
Oh, okay.
But at the same time is what I do is about relationships with college coaches. And people say this is a myth out there, big myth. If I'm good enough, they're going to find me. Not going to happen. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. If you want to play at the elite level in college, which only 1%, 2% do, then you got to be in the best elite program that you're playing against the best elite girls every weekend. College coaches tell me all this time. I'm sick and tired of getting emails from parents. Let me say it again. From parents. No, never mind. It's not the parents, but it's the girl's email address that's sending it. Okay. So I'm going to tell you this right now, parents. Stop doing it for them. Because college coaches know that. And it turns them off so quickly. So you're ruining that. But that's another thing we won't talk about. Okay. And they're telling me the same thing. College coaches. David, yeah, you might hit 3 home runs, but where's that pitcher going? What's that team called? They're terrible. If a girl throws anywhere between 65 and 70 and you hit a home run against her, hey, kudos to you. Kudos to you. But if you're 58, 61, 62, no, seriously, that's not, yeah, it's not going to be elite. Now, I'm not saying you can't play. I'm not saying that at all. But if you want to be elite, you got to be able to hit elite pitching every weekend. And that's the reason why you have the Stiffs. That's the reason why you have the Ricos. That's the reason why you have Brashears. That's the reason why you have Mercados. That's the reason why you have Athletics. And that's the reason why you have the Angels with Marty Tyson. Okay? If you're on those teams, guess what? They're going to be playing against the best every weekend.
Yep.
And that's what you do in college.
Yeah, and I can't believe I forgot Rico and Firecrackers because they're a big Southern. Well, they're nationwide, but they're mainly in Southern California too. Yeah, so I did an episode last week. It was a solo cast, and I said, what advice would I give myself, my younger self? And it was about me talking to my younger self, and what advice? The main advice was it had to do with trusting my gut. Right, we were with the Bat Busters. And she was on Stiff's 18s, but was still typically, and I don't know if he does anymore, but college coaches came to him, right? They would come watch, like you were just saying, they would come watch his games because he had all the top players. Well, he wasn't playing Lacey at the time, and so there's nobody watching her. And it was that day when, and I wanted to thank you for that. I was going to bring that up. I told myself I would have trusted my gut sooner, right? Because we went to Florida. She didn't play in Florida. I was so mad. I was pissed, right? I'm like, why is she on this team? But I trusted the process. I trusted Mike Stith. I trusted that he was going to get my daughter recruited. That's not true. He's not getting my daughter recruited. She needs to get recruited, and she needs to be on the right team with the right person, right? To have an advocate, and that's what you do. Right? You're an advocate for these players. And I wanted to just verbally record thank you, because after that last game when we got booted from the team, I'm visualizing right now. You and I were walking together on the path in between these fields, and you were consulting me, and you're just like, man, just keep at it. Make sure you're, get on the right team. And I really appreciate that. So I wanted to thank you for being there for me. You didn't know that you were there for me, but you were there for me as a father.
Well, and thank you. I appreciate that. And that's the one thing that I want to help dads as well as moms, of course. But at the same time is we, and I'm talking dads, can get very heady where we make quick, rash decisions instead of looking at the whole picture. And sometimes we got to get slapped across the face and say, hey, is my daughter good enough to play at this organization or this school? And sometimes it's not about us dads. It's about your kids. And that's where I've grown up. That's where I've matured. And so when I have those conversations with dads, I can just be a stumbling stone to them, but let them understand that it's okay to feel that way. There's nothing wrong with it, but you got to do what's best for your kid in the long run. And that's what you did. And your daughter has had a great college career and she's got a lot of things going for her too. So guess what? Kudos to mom and dad for that, because when push comes to shove, that's all it's about in the long run.
Yeah, I was looking at it as prestige, right? Oh, she's on STIS team, so she's automatically going to get a scholarship, and that's not true, right? So when we did polar, we went to SoCal A's. They had a recruiting coordinator, and they started making calls, and we were all of a sudden we're starting to talk to colleges, which was right. So that's my whole thing is, and you said it, you got to be a stud. You got to be playing other studs in order to get recognized. You also need to have an advocate behind you, like what you do with NSR, because I'm sure you're having those tough conversations. And we talked about the September. Is it no September 1st, right?
Yes.
Where there's going to be girls that are automatically going to get 10, 15 calls at 12:01, right? But then you have that subsection, which is so you have those conversations, which I appreciate, and that's why I was talking about having advocacy. You got to have somebody that's going to say, okay, listen, you're not there, but don't get all like depressed and have these mental, oh, this person's getting, because Lacey deleted Twitter because she was seeing all these people committing, and she got so depressed because she thought she was going to get a call. Well, the reason why she thought she was going to get a call but she didn't is because no one told her, like, hey, you're not going to get a call, you're not there yet, right? And that's what I appreciate about what you, because I'm sure you pull these girls aside. It's like, hey, listen, you're probably not going to get a call, but we're still going to be working hard, for you at the end of the day.
You always have to have a backup plan, because you can always have dreams and goals that you want to go play at the Division 1 level. Everybody does, right? Everybody wants to go play in the Power Four now. It is what it is. I get it, but only a certain amount of percentage girls can play there. So you got to have a backup plan and talk to your girls about that, and not just from a parent standpoint, but travel ball coaches or whoever their advocate is, right? And if you're not getting that, to me that's a problem, because you got to have those honest talks, and sometimes those talks are not easy. And the one thing I tell my athletes all the time: I'm not your coach, I'm not your parent, I'm a recruiting coach that is going to talk to you factual, data driven. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry, don't take it personal, because I'm not a personal guy. I have girls, so I know what it is to have feelings and emotions and all that kind of stuff. But same time is I gotta have that real talk with them. And again, it does not stop. For instance, people say, "Oh, well, the dead period or the quiet period." That's just NCAA rules, right? There's always people talking. They're always recruiting because they want to get the best. Now, the problem with these high school programs and travel ball programs, I'm sorry to say this, that portal is killing these travel ball organizations even that much more. Because when I talk to college coaches, and they used to recruit anywhere between 5 and 8 high school kids per year, cut it in half to 3 to 4, because they're going to go in the portal, because those kids have shown that they can play at that level. They have the numbers that play in that level. And guess what? Academically, they got it done. The college academics, which is no joke. And you got to be able to balance it. So why am I going to take a high school senior that hasn't shown the numbers, in the classroom, where I can get this girl in the portal that has 3 more years too? So there's a lot of things that the portal is hurting high school programs as well as organizations. And I feel bad for girls that have the dreams and goals to play the highest level possible.
Yeah, I've been mulling that over. It's almost the portal is almost it's like a rich man's JC, right? Because a lot of times you go JC, and then even colleges now love JUCOs because they've gotten 2 years of seasoning, and then now they have this mature junior and senior, and they're going to perform. This portal, is these girls maybe going and they commit to whatever school whatever it is, because that they just, because they want to go to a 4-year college, not a JC, because it's a mindset to them, right? But they're also thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to go to this school for a year and I'm going to kick butt, and then I'm going to put my name in the portal, and then I'm automatically going to go to the Power Four. Over 2,000 girls are stuck in the portal. They don't have a college to go to, right?
No, and that's the case but think about this too, is a lot of junior colleges, as well as a lot of Division twos, their fall schedules, who are they playing?
Oh, they're playing all the Division ones.
All the Division One. So guess what? If you perform against those girls in the fall, who knows what could happen to you after the season's over with, right? Or even at Christmas time, which I know people are calling each other now. So it's crazy. I feel bad, but parents, please don't allow your kid to make the decision all the time. Still educate them, still preach them, still help them, still write down the old school mentality, the pros and the cons, because it does matter. Because you can only play softball for 4 or 5 years, and academics is so important. Thank God KK got graduate from University of Oregon with a psychology degree. Now she's getting her master's degree in mental health and psychology with Sports Illustrated. I mean, it's fantastic. I'm so proud of KK because guess what? She got her degree. She's getting her master's degree, and now she can go start growing up like I want her to. And that's what it's all about, parents. And again, softball is we get confused, we get lost, and we get distracted with all of this stuff on social media. If I can be social media freak right now, stop it, parents. Stop it. It's not about anybody else in social media. It's about your daughter. Do what's best for your daughter.
Yeah, because you look back and time is short. And you look back at, I see parents all the time. They just get so caught up in everything, and all of a sudden, 5 years later, it's all over. And now what? So I'm glad you did that. You were transitioning to KK. She's done. As she transitioned out of college, what advice do you have for parents supporting their athletes as they move on to the next phase of their lives, whether it's grad school, which KK's in, international play, which my daughter might play, or just starting a career? What kind of advice? Because we've interviewed a lot of ex D1s and actually some pros, and their senior year, it's about 50-50, right? Some were like, I want to get the hell out of here. This sucks. And then some were like, I don't want it to end because they're always going to the World Series and they're looking forward to that.
Great question, because KK going to University of Oregon, and it was a very tough situation for KK for a lot of different reasons. So when she got done and she graduated, she looked at me because she had opportunities to go play more. She did. And as a dad, I'm like, yes, let's go. But I had to take a step back and say, hey, baby, what do you want? She's like, Dad, I'm not in the mental strain right now. I'm not in the mental health right now. I need to take time off for myself to find myself. She lost herself. And that's what parents, you have to understand. Your job is not done when they get to college. You got to be their biggest supporter and continue to educate them and continue to help them. But at the same time is when she came to me, she said, Dad, I need time off. Now she goes, could I do it after a year or two? Yeah. But right now I got to find myself again. And I'm glad she did. And it's because of her and her hard work and what she's dove into with this master's degree is really helped her out, because now she understands why she was feeling the way she was feeling when she was playing.
Yeah. That's cool. And she's still in the game. It's not like she completely dropped softball, right? She's a grad assistant. She's,
She's gonna coach. She's
yeah.
gonna coach. It's in her blood. And she had opportunities to go and coach this year, but she's like, Dad, I want to go get my master's degree and get it over with, so I can start being a full-time college coach, because that's what she wants to be. And when she's there, guess what? Her work ethic is going to be the exact same way for those other players that she's working out. So I'm excited for her.
Yeah. Awesome, David. I appreciate your time. If someone wants to get a hold of you for recruiting advice or coaching, how can they get a hold of you?
The biggest thing as parents, I'm going to tell you this is please, please, please have somebody that educated in the system that understands recruiting, and recruiting is all about relationships. So My thing is, I would ask your travel ball coach, Coach, can you give me 20 college coaches and their phone numbers right now?
If they can't,
If they start stumbling all over themselves, guess what?
you're in the wrong place.
Yeah, you're in the wrong place. And
Great.
again, yeah, because when push comes to shove, it's not about what other team that you're on. It's about what that travel ball coach has as far as college coaches on their speed dial. So that's number one, I would tell you. Number two, every girl is not a power four girl. Nope, not going to happen. And number three is guess what? Have a backup plan. You got to be willing to step away from your dreams and your goals. And the last thing I'm going to tell you, parents, your daughters have to be involved in this. Don't be sending emails out on their behalf. I tell my girls all the time, I need 20 to 30 minutes a day. If you can't give me 20 to 30 minutes a day, I don't want you. Because guess what? I have relationships with college coaches. They know who I am. They don't know who you are. So that's where I want you to be engaged in this process. And again, it's accountability too. That's what I do is if I don't hear from them for a period of time, I'll shoot them a text in a group text with their parents too.
There you
And
go.
I have a group text for all my athletes together as far as what they need to do. So from my standpoint, I'm a recruiting coach. That's what I am. So if you want help or you have questions, which I have seminars all the time for parents of teams just to answer questions and give you information. That's what I do too. So if you want that, you can call me, text me 951 609. I get calls and texts all the time from parents asking me whether I take you on as my athlete. Don't know, but I still will give you information to help you out.
Nice.
Because guess what? If you don't have information, you're behind. And people ask me all this, and this is the last thing I'm going to say. When's it too early to start the recruiting process? If your daughter is mentally stable to be able to handle it, start it early as you can. These people that are starting their sophomores and juniors and
No, you gotta be 8th grade at minimum, right? Yeah.
minimum 8th grade. I have 7th graders that I have a part of me just because once you learn the process for a year, year and a half, now you understand exactly what you're supposed to be doing and you can have fun for the last 2 or 3 years.
There you go. Yeah, and then my last advice is if you're gonna copy and paste emails, make sure you change the coach's name.
Yes, yes. I agree with you 100% with that one.
Kendra is like, my name is not.
But guess what? We've all failed before. We all have done it before, and that's why your
Before, right?
daughters need to be gauged. They're smarter than us on technology than we are.
True.
So let's be real. Let your girls do the work.
Awesome stuff, Dave. I appreciate your time. It's good seeing you again, and
And
good luck with everything with your new team with your daughter on it. Good luck, buddy.
thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
You too.